Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome everybody to the workshop on regional and local approaches to fight energy poverty. The Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform is organizing this workshop in the frame of the entire Policy Learning Week. Maybe you've had the chance to attend some of the sessions, maybe this morning's session, as today is the Low Carbon Economy Day. Anyway, so welcome or welcome back. My name is Katharina Krell. I'm here together with my colleague, Simon Hunkin.
Good afternoon.
We're both thematic experts for low carbon economy at the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform, and we are sharing the moderation of this event. Our team is never complete without our colleagues in charge of IT and events. And today we have Lotte van Meijl with us. She is hiding under the name Policy Learning Platform, and you can write to her in the chat if you have any technical problem with the Zoom platform. Some housekeeping rules before we start. As usual, we are recording this webinar, and the recordings will be available online along with all the presentations. Please stay muted. You're invited to turn your cameras on, so it's a little bit more lively if you wish. For questions to our speakers, please use the chat. We will also use the chat to be posting useful information and to ask you some feedback, not to polls, but written feedback. At the end of the workshop, there is a help desk session. If you have booked a help desk, please stay on at the end of the session. You will be assigned to a breakout room to meet one of us. So, our topic today is energy poverty and what can be done to fight it at local and regional levels. When we decided to put this topic on today's agenda, Russia had not yet invaded Ukraine, but the energy prices were already higher than usual. Now, traditional approaches to address energy poverty mostly relied on state subsidies. Subsidizing energy bills is, of course, a tool that can be deployed rather easily, and it has an immediate impact on reducing energy poverty for the ones who receive these subsidies. But subsidies don't cure the underlying problem, and subsidies become incredibly costly, especially if more and more people need it to cover ever more expensive energy bills. So therefore, other approaches are needed to either reduce energy demand or to reduce the cost at which we consume the energy that we still use. And these other approaches are the focus of our event today. And here is our agenda. We are starting off with a keynote from Joaquin Villar from the Andalusian Regional Government's Energy Agency. And Javier is going to give us a systematic overview of the measures to fight energy poverty. These measures have been elaborated within the project Poverty, so not poverty, excuse me. And you will see that this project features quite prominently on our agenda because it is the only Interreg Europe project focusing solely on energy poverty. And the remedies that the project is looking at are fighting energy poverty through increased use of renewables. We then have the honor to have with us Teresa Aristegui from the European Commission's DG Energy, who will present the EU Energy Poverty Advisory Hub to us. And then we're having two panels. We're having first a panel of 3 pilot actions. These are pilots that are carried out within the Interreg Europe projects. So pilots, well, these are actions that are being rolled out that do not have yet a full scale nor a long term to monitor their impact. We will hear about energy communities that are serving vulnerable households. An experience presented by Catherine Premat from Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes Energy Environment Agency in France, also from the Poverty Project. And then we'll have a joint presentation from Tudor, Drambarean and Valentin Voinica from Alba Iulia Municipality in Romania from the Social Green Projects about improving energy efficiency in social apartments using smart metering, monitoring solutions. And then we will hear about energy and educational communities for vulnerable areas from Ruth Borrego from the Andalusian Energy Agency. We'll have a networking break then and ensue with a second panel where we have 3 more presentations. These are good practices, so these are fully rolled out practices, and we will hear about joint procurement and purchase of solar power to bring down costs from Tanja Kähkönen from the Regional Council of North Karelia and Finland from the AgroRes project. Then we'll have Florian Guillote from Cycles Advent from France, from the Clean project, explaining about the Enerterre integration workshops. And finally, a very interesting financial model, the QUANTICA financing model, presented by Javier Becerra from QUANTICA Renovables, which is a company from south of Spain. So I hope that the agenda is interesting. And before we turn to our keynote, I would like to ask a question to the audience, and please use the chat to answer. We would like to hear what you think are the major barriers to tackling energy poverty in your region. And so write your answers in the chat. I will read some of the reactions. Financial. Yeah, I think financial is a big barrier, and so we're interested to hear about financial models. Poor investment capacity and knowledge. Poor energy efficiency, yeah, especially social housing is very often not in a super good state. When we already lose a lot of the energy. Lack of incentives. Hidden energy poverty and stigma attaching to energy poverty and underconsumption, bureaucracy, dependency on conventional energy sources. You keep writing. We are collecting these inputs for our write-up. Lack of acceptance of new technology and lack of trust. Yes, that's an important one, I think. Good. All right, so let's turn to our keynote. Joaquin, the floor is yours.
Hello, Katharina. Thank you for the invitation. And I will try to share my screen. Let's see if it works. Okay. And now presentation mode. It's working?
Not yet.
Now, okay.
Yes, now it's
okay.
Good.
Hello, my name is Joaquin Villar, and I will try to explain our main insights on energy poverty. Based on the Poverty Project. Poverty Project is a project financed by Interreg Europe, and as you can see in the slide, we are not overcoming the energy poverty by traditional measures, as Katharina commented, subsidizing energy bills, energy supplies, or measures regarding energy efficiency or social rates. We are trying with the Poverty Project to connect renewable energy with energy poverty. That is why the project is called Poverty. And why we want to do that is because it's not we are not talking about energy efficiency. We are talking about providing energy supply to these houses, a safe, clean, and affordable energy supply. Sometimes the problem is not that you have a very energy efficiency house. The problem is that you don't have any energy supply, or you cannot pay this energy supply. So we are tackling this issue from this point of view, and mainly with 4 elements. First, renewable energies technologies. We We want to identify what are the most affordable renewable energy technologies. We want also to identify adequate financial mechanism for financing renewable installations. We want also to learn about normative and regulatory framework to push and to combat the energy poverty in different member states. And of course, it's also quite important empowering the citizens and local authorities, giving them the tools to combat energy poverty. As Interreg Europe project, the project poverty want to achieve improve the policy instrument in the different regions that are participating in the project. This is a map with the different partners. We are 5 partners from Spain, France, Bulgaria, Poland, and Lithuania. And it's important to remark also that we have UK, the University of Manchester, that was they were leading the Energy Poverty Observatory in the last years, and they have a lot of knowledge on energy poverty. That's why, as advisory partner of our consortium, was quite important to have them inside. So you see the first task we have was a SWOT analysis on energy poverty in Europe, and Katharina, you were introducing this with your question. We identify a lot of weaknesses, but also a lot of opportunities regarding the energy poverty. We can mention some of them. For example, vulnerable groups are often unaware of renewable energy, or the type of size of the vulnerable household make it difficult to install. There are also a large number of illegal connections. The energy consumption is low and is not so feasible for technology as renewables. Difficulty to access finance, as you commented. One of your comments was there. When we are talking about vulnerable groups, we have to consider that they are a very heterogeneous groups. So you have to have different approach to different kind of people affected by energy poverty. You have also mentioned lack of tools to combat, to identify energy poverty, and difficulties in accessing this kind of group. Some of you mentioned it's difficult because of the lack of trust. That is quite also important. But we have also strengths when we are talking about renewable energy, that the versatility and flexibility of the technologies when we are talking about renewables. The price of renewable energy are also reducing, so they are more affordable for vulnerable groups. We can find now also a lot of European funding for energy improvement. So we can use this fund to reduce the energy poverty. We will find not in all member states, but in many member states, energy strategies or national strategies against energy poverty. And this is important, but at the same time, we find a lot of European countries that has not defined what is energy poverty, and they have to start from the beginning. And as a strength point, also we have a lot of experiences working on pure people. We have, for example, in Spain, a very well developed social service in local administration, so they can work not only with vulnerable groups, but also talking about energy poverty to these groups. So this is a strong point. The threats that we see when we talk about energy poverty is that maybe the vulnerable groups are very unattractive groups for investing, for innovation. When we are talking about profitability of this investment. There are a few experiences when we talk about energy poverty and renewables. As I mentioned, we have a lot of experiences when we talk about energy efficiency, but talking about renewables and energy poverty is not a common element. Also, we find that we can find a lot of funds, but dedicated or more focused on other basic elements as food, clothing, but not on energy. And we have found also programs that are not implemented well when talking about energy efficiency. And also we have separation between technological and social actors in many times. As opportunities, we see a lot of opportunity. For example, we have entities that are quite sensitive with vulnerable groups, so it's a good point. We have the public buildings that could be the base of to implement renewable energy that can supply energy for vulnerable groups, and also the public body are quite sensitive to this problem. We saw that a growing trend of microfinance, crowd lending, and a lot of platforms that are creating for social projects. We have the so-called local energy communities, a very trend topic by now. We have a strong European policy supporting and combating energy poverty. We have also the Covenant of Mayors. There are a lot of opportunity to insert vulnerable groups as a labor market, installing renewable energy. And for us, it's quite important the collaboration between different stakeholders. And we would like to comment something about that. In the case of Andalusia, we have created a network of more than 52 entities collaborating, not only NGOs. As you can see in the slide, we in the framework of poverty, we signed an agreement with Caritas to combat the energy poverty, but also we have incorporated clusters, associations, technical associations, research centers. Here you can see in the slide another memorandum of understanding with the University of Huelva. They want to research on solar cooking for energy poverty, and that's why it's important to involve all the associations, research centers, and so on in this, all combating in the same way, in the same line. And we were also inspired by Poverty Project, the Andalusia Energy Agency, and the workers of the Andalusia Energy Agency. We were awarded by the first prize of the Social Germinador Awards. We applied for this Germinador Social Award, and with a project that was creating a collective platform for financing renewable installation for vulnerable groups, and it was recognized as the best project. And we are now trying to implement this project, but we wanted to demonstrate that subsidies is okay, but even if we don't have subsidies, we can install renewables in vulnerable groups with the support of companies, NGOs, and in this case with the initiative of the Andalusian Energy Agency workers. In the framework of the Poverty Project, we have collected a large number of good practices. We don't have enough time to go with these good practices, but a common denominator of these good practices is the local energy communities, as I referred previously. And if Ruth will comment later, but most of the good practices are related to this, and the pilot project that we are running in the Interact Europe project they are also related to local energy communities. And why? No? Why? Because local energy communities are recognized by the Renewable Energy Directive as a good solution, recognize the opportunity of the energy community to combat energy poverties. The directives say that we have to ensure the participation of the vulnerable groups in the energy communities. And also the other directives that are regulating the local energy communities is the Internal Energy Market Directive, and also this directive mentioned the local energy communities as a very important tool to combat the energy poverty. And this is mainly that we are doing in Andalusia with the pilot project that Ruth will comment later. And the public administration has a very important role in developing these local energy communities, as it was stated by the European Committee of Regions, and also in a publication of the policy learning platform. We have this is a map of Andalusia. We have a lot of initiative on local energy communities, and if you can see in the slide, this is in the middle is Torreblanca. Torreblanca is the pilot project that we have in Andalusia, but almost all the initiatives that we have in Andalusia are tackling the energy poverty through these local energy communities. So for us, it's quite important from the administration to provide tools to this local energy community for a better development of these initiatives. And we are very proud also with the poverty project, because it has been incorporated also in the advisory hub Atlas, as you can see with the partners in the map. And I think that Teresa will comment something about this new initiative from the European Commission. And I think that is all from my side. Yes.
Thank you, Joaquin. This was a very nice introduction to a difficult topic. I see we have no specific questions for you. I have one for you. Yes. You have mentioned that one of the difficulties is the low energy consumption of vulnerable groups. Is this a barrier because you have difficulty making a business case? Because if you have a photovoltaic plant, you cannot divide the production between different consumers, or why did you say that the low consumption is a barrier?
Yes, you know, if you want to install a photovoltaic plant, the saving that you have, because you reduce your consumption, and you pay less because you are consuming less. So the payback is by your energy saving. But if your consume is near zero or very low, your payback goes more than 50 years. So maybe the installation, if you ask for a private to install you a renewable installation and you will pay in 10 years, it can be not true when you are talking about people in vulnerable group, because the energy savings is not so high. So you can not consider the feasibility of renewables when you are talking about energy poverty. That is the main reason. For example, in the case of the Geminado Social Award that we were evaluating, we had a payback period of 20 years. So because the consumption was not so high for these people. If you talk a normal family in Spain, the payback period of photovoltaic plant is 7-8 years. So no one will invest in this with a very, very long period. Payback period.
I understand. I mean, you have investigated many good practices. Did you find anywhere a case where one photovoltaic plant is sharing the production amongst various households, for instance, so that you can overcome this low consumption of the individual?
Yes, exactly, Catherine. Maybe it's not very profitable when you have a photovoltaic plant only for vulnerable groups, but when you combine, for example, collective photovoltaic plants incorporating vulnerable groups and non-vulnerable groups, and you can share the saving between these both groups, then the installation could be very feasible. And you are benefiting not only vulnerable groups, but also you are benefiting those who are not vulnerable. And we have some lessons learned from poverty projects because we have a case in France that has been identified by Poverty Project and is documented in the good practice guide that we have elaborated in Poverty Project. And this is exactly the case. They are combining people with different situations and with different benefits from the photovoltaic, but all of them are benefiting from this.
Very interesting. I see that the discussion has triggered some activity in the chat. We need to move on to our next presentation, but Joaquin, maybe you can take a look at the chat and okay. Engage in this discussion. Thank you very much for this keynote. And it's my pleasure to pass the floor to Teresa Aristegui. Teresa, I think the unit that you're working on is also having a reference to the leaving no one behind of the energy transition. Is it correct?
Exactly. So we have indeed, it's our title, right? So let me just first of all try sharing the screen. I want to be sure that it's just the screen that is shared. You let me know if you can see it, okay?
You can see it, but not yet in full.
Right, let's see the trick.
Yeah. Okay, now we see the preview. I think if you go in display settings and you change, well, go in full screen mode.
If I normally do this, it goes again to the same thing, right?
And if you go in displays, okay.
Display settings.
Yeah, but the display settings, you see them once you are in full screen mode.
Mm-hmm. Or I can share with you if you want, and you share for me, if that's okay. In the meantime, I can give you a...
Okay. Lotte, can you share it for us, please? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Teresa, you just speak.
Okay, perfect. So I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you, Katharina, for extending the invitation. And I think it was very nice to be able to hear the experience of poverty as explained by Joaquin so well. And as a Spanish, person working in the Commission, it's always very nice to hear all the work that is done in Spain in particular. So indeed, I'm a policy officer at the unit in DG Energy dealing with energy poverty. And as such, we also take care of, we're also managing the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub. I thought that maybe going to the next slide, or just to remember what comes, maybe leaving it at that for a second. I'm also happy to give you a bit of an overview, which maybe we didn't agree on, Katharina, but a bit also of the Commission's policy landscape until now, just to in a few minutes to explain exactly where we come from and where we are right now, and also in the context of the crisis that's going on. So as many of you maybe know, if you have followed the proposals of the Commission, energy poverty really became significant at the time of the Clean Energy for All Europeans package. So this was the first pieces of legislation where energy poverty really became, let's say, an essential part. And here, for the first time, member states were required to, when they identified a significant number of energy poverty in their member state, to track this number, to find ways to adequately measure and to update, and when the number is considered significant, to allow to essentially draw up the measures to address the issue structurally. So then this, of course, was picked up. So if we think about this was in 2019. So of course the Green Deal then picks up on this because solidarity is considered a defining principle of the European Green Deal. And this is also where we basically hear about the Just Transition Mechanism, the Just Transition Fund, And we can leave it in these slides first, and then we go into the specific ones of the, just for me to give the overview. We go into that. Then basically the Commission delivered in 2020 a energy poverty guidance, which actually it was in the form of a recommendation and with a detailed document giving guidance to member states on how to interpret indicators and how to go about defining energy poverty in each member state. And since it's been quite a long ride, quite an intense one, we have, of course, the impact of the COVID crisis on energy poverty. And I think as a result of that, but of course also because of what we had as a mandate in the Green Deal, we see in many of the Fit for 55 packaged proposals, energy poverty being a central part. So we think about the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and of course, a very hot topic now is the Social Climate Fund. So basically, of course, this is ultimately an instrument which would deal with high energy prices. And of course, we're in the middle of negotiations now, so it has to be seen whether it goes through in the way that we proposed initially. But the fund basically will help mitigate the costs for those most exposed to fossil fuel price increases. And it would promote basically mitigation for energy poverty and transport poverty. And the scope of it is essentially 72 billion, 72.2 billion to be exact, euros across a period going from 2025 to 2032. So maybe going down, if you can go to the next slides, I think I won't go into maybe so much more of the details. The next one also could be helpful to you because, of course, we touch on what basically Joaquin was saying, no? So the different elements of energy poverty, you see heating, cooling, and then also what we understand by vulnerable consumers, what we understand by social inclusion and well-being. As the Commission, of course, we always say that we often get the question from Parliament, for example, you know, how does the Commission, what criteria are used to determine what vulnerable households are or vulnerable consumers with respect to energy poverty? And the answer we always give is that essentially it depends what you're using those definitions for. And also, you know, for example, the Social Climate Fund, you have a specific definition for that instrument. And then every member state needs to basically accommodate their own definitions to the needs. So the Commission is currently trying to put forward EU level definitions, but which can always have that margin, you know, allowing member states to come up with those that work best for their circumstances. So if we go to the next slide, I think there is what we call the super important energy poverty triangle. So this is where, you know, when you talk about definitions, when you talk about measuring energy poverty, you really have to look at these three different elements. So if you really want to be as exhaustive and capture as much as possible, and to really, it really applies to every level, let's say national, regional, and local. And if you miss one, you will not be reflecting accurately energy poverty and the challenges to households. I think maybe before I move on to the specifically to what the advisory hub does, and because this session is really about, this workshop is about local level actions and in many ways the role of local authorities, I think it could be also interesting to point out that in the recent proposals of the Commission, in the Energy Efficiency Directive, there is a new article which is quite significant. It's the Article 5 on public sector leading on energy efficiency. And so it actually reads as follows. It says that member states shall ensure that regional and local authorities establish specific energy efficiency measures in their decarbonization plans. And in so doing, that they consult stakeholders in the public, including in particular the people, so the actual households at risk of poverty. So with this, we're really trying to spread, let's say, the responsibility and it is really there to acknowledge the essential role really of the local level in helping target the most vulnerable households. So if we go down, I think now we go into the actual, okay, exactly. So this is the advisory hubs methodology and how we go about it basically. So you first do a diagnosis of what needs, of what there is out there based on indicators that you actually have from these last years. Then you would have a planning based on that, and finally implementation. If we go to the next slide as well, please. Okay, so a bit more, let's see the next one. We can leave it in the next one, I think. This is basically the consortium of the advisory hub. So this is it's actually a contract that of the commission. So it's as Joaquin was mentioning, before that there was the Energy Poverty Observatory. So with the advisory hub, there is a different, let's say it's much more of a local approach. So we go a bit beyond the Energy Poverty Observatory's first mission of making a first, let's say, EU level collection of academic resources on energy poverty, what is out there in terms of national level indicators. So with the advisory hub, we if you go to the next slide, let's see if I can go into more details. Next one, please. Yeah, this basically it picks up essentially on what the observatory had, but it goes at the local level. It looks at the collaboration with local governments. And if we go to the next one, perhaps as well. I'm sorry, because I think I have too many slides, it doesn't help. If you go into the actual website of the advisory hub, you find different things, and that kind of explains what they do. So one of the objectives is to keep on updating the indicator database, which to us is clearly at the core of identifying energy poverty. They also are tasked with making a clear mapping of the different of the energy poverty measures out there. So as Joaquin was mentioning, we have the Atlas, and you could actually find the poverty. You can find the poverty projects there, but you can also find, more technical assistance for the policy design at the local level. You can also find measures which are targeting more renovation of buildings, for example, social housing. So I think it's really a nice way to explore. You can go in there and it can filter down by region, by country more broadly, and by intervention type. And then importantly, what we have is the delivery of technical assistance in the form of calls, or specified calls, which actually I think closed. So this call for technical assistance closed yesterday. So maybe some of you here already applied, but not to worry if not, because I think one of the purposes precisely of this is to, at the end of the first call, we would actually draw the best practices, and the objective ultimately would be to be able to replicate what we learned from this technical assistance. And yeah, I think with this, the following slides maybe give more information, but it's essentially explaining what I just said. There is also, maybe to close, I think I'm seeing the chat is very active. I don't know if it's for me, but I suppose I have a bit of maybe a couple of minutes just to close on what many of you maybe are also wondering. What does the crisis currently with the war in Ukraine mean also for the Commission's policies, also around just transition and the Green Deal. And basically, as you might have seen, there was a communication that came out last week, where basically it's called the Repower EU communication. And there we basically came to realize that with the Green Deal, we also have to focus, and more so now than ever, on diversification. and that decarbonization doesn't go without diversification and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, right? Coming from, especially from other sources which are not European. So I think that my message here to convey as the Commission is that really now more than ever, I think energy efficiency is key, because it's going to be basically our best tool as consumers, you know, collectively as citizens, to show solidarity and to demonstrate that we can really give a direct response to this reliability. And I think that hopefully it will also send a message, of course, to the negotiations on the importance of directing support in the form of financial support or you know, any other policy support towards structural solutions, and especially for those that are vulnerable. So if you read the communication, you will see that this is all there, that energy efficiency is a key element. We will still have to see what actually comes out of it in a complete plan. But I think that with the recovery funds, we have seen very nice examples of commitments in that direction. So perhaps member states will pick up on that and see what we can do. But I think with this, more or less, it's clear. And I just think that from my, if you want to discover more about the advisory hub's work, nothing better than to go into the website, and you know, you can contact me especially on the technical assistance calls. If anyone has any questions, I can answer them myself, or I can also always extend the question to the team handling these things more directly. So thank you very much, Katharina, for this slot.
Thank you for being with us, Teresa. Unfortunately, you were a little bit muffled. You were much clearer in the practice run, but I hope that everybody managed to understand. I mean, sadly, we see the increased policy attention. I mean, it's positive that there is increased policy attention on the topic, but it's sad because it's induced by a worsening of the problem. And I think you've already said it all. So very useful. Everybody check out the useful collection of case studies searchable in the hub. And don't hesitate to contact Teresa for specific calls on technical assistance. Teresa, I would like to know, is there any country that is standing out by a very large policy attention on the topic, or by very many interesting approaches, or are we all about in the same situation?
Well, I think, you know, we always get this question, and I think that it's a bit dangerous, because of course we have to understand that energy poverty is it's as a concept very new. So when you look at the literature we have on it, it is quite a new phenomenon that people are only now realizing the importance of. So I think that we have seen huge efforts by many who had nothing years ago to have something in place. So when you think of Greece, actually, and Italy, there is quite a lot. It's quite interesting to see that there are like equivalent observatories there for the national level. So this is already helping enormously in mapping precisely what I was saying, these kind of what do we really see beyond the EU level indicators. You know, you really have to go deep into the national level, and even more so regional and local, to know what's going on. Not because I'm biased being Spanish, but of course in Spain there is also a strategy in place. So it's the energy poverty strategy that runs until 2024. And this was, you know, very advanced if you think about it, because it was already announced in the National Energy and Climate Plan. So I think these are a few examples of ways in which, you know, hopefully it can inspire other member states. And I think especially, you know, Interreg being also coming from the regio, let's say, side of things, I think it would be important for member states to consider how regional funding can really have a specific call for energy poverty alleviation, because otherwise energy efficiency can easily go to those who maybe are not as vulnerable. It can reach, you know, middle-income households who struggle. Not to say that there are, you know, of course there are also middle-income households who can still fall in the category of energy poverty, right? So I think that there are many good examples out there, and definitely let's see what happens, especially as we said, after this crisis, because it's still unfortunately going on. So yeah, we'll be sharing also in the Commission website as much as possible in terms of examples.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, if you have time, stay on and you will hear some of the regional and local level examples. And I would like to move now into the first session and hand over the moderation to my colleague, Simon.
Okay, thank you, Katharina, and also to Joaquin and Teresa for your presentations. Yep, thanks for sharing that short introduction. Okay, so yeah, we'll now enter into the first panel of presentations, and we'll be focusing here on Interreg Europe pilot actions for tackling energy poverty. So many of you will know, of course, the Interreg Europe projects and how they work. So it's regions working together to exchange experience and to produce action plans to then be implemented to improve regional policy frameworks. These action plans can include pilot actions where a region can test a good practice or approach. The pilot actions need to contribute to the policy instrument being tackled in the project, and they need to derive from the project cooperation. So these pilots are built upon previously identified good practices, but are innovative to the region in which they're being implemented, and maybe building from parts of different practices being pulled together. So the intention is to provide a first experience, of course, for further rollout. So we have 3 such pilot actions today coming from Poverty, but also from the Social Green project. And these are being implemented in France and Romania and Spain. So they cover a new ESCO contract model to enable energy communities to invest in renewables for vulnerable households, a smart monitoring system for behavior change in social housing, and an energy and educational community for a vulnerable area. So 3 very different approaches there. Next slide, please, Katharina. Okay, so as we've heard in our introductory session, energy prices are rising and have made energy poverty an incredibly important issue for us to consider. So what we're looking for is, we want to understand which approaches could be thought of as quick wins. That is, which ones are high impact, but also quick and easy to implement. For this, after each presentation, we'll have some polls to the audience to ask you what impact you think the practice could have for your region and how long you think it could take to implement. And then we will discuss with our panel 2 speakers to involve them also in panel 1, their reaction to the pilot, focusing on ease of implementation or replication. So we'll be thinking about stakeholders, technology, skills and resources needed. And then of course, we know that it's important to have a package of policies and instruments. So we want to see if we're covering all of the relevant angles in our session today. So to this end, we'll also be discussing where each practice fits in the framework that was presented by Joaquin earlier on. So we'll be seeing, are the practices fitting into the sort of normative and regulatory mold? Are they practices on empowering citizens and local authorities? Are they financial mechanisms? Are they renewable energy technology focused practices? This classification will also inform a future policy brief, which will build around the outcomes of this workshop. So behind the scenes, we'll be putting the results of these polls and these discussions on our Miro board, as you'll see here on the right. So we'll be mapping the 4 criteria, again, impact, time, ease, categorization, which we'll present at the end in the concluding session. This same methodology will be used in the second panel. I'll say that now so Katharina doesn't have to repeat all of this, but maybe we'll give you a refresher on that after the break. So without further delay, I'll introduce our first speaker. So I'd like to introduce Catherine Premat from Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes Energy Environment Agency in France, who will present energy communities serving vulnerable households. Catherine, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Katharina, giving us the opportunity to present our project. I will share my screen. Okay. I hope you can see it in full screen. It's okay, good. Yeah, yes, as Joaquin and the participants in the chat pointed out in a few minutes earlier, vulnerable households have difficulties to access financing, and so we are quite lucky in France to have a dedicated policy towards vulnerable people with incentives for energy renovation, but not really dedicated to renewable energies. And these incentives require to take out a loan from a bank for vulnerable people. So with our regional stakeholders, we identified that these questions of investment capacity is a major obstacle to any work for a precarious household. That's why we decided to launch this pilot action. The aim of this pilot is to build on the existing energy communities in our regions to invest in renewable energies in place of the households. We have two type of territories in our regions. One rural area, which is located in south of the regions, and another one urban, very urban area, because it's a metropolitan area of Lyon, where we are experimenting this action. We have already launched the legal and economic feasibility study to evaluate the possibility to invest for an energy community, to invest for in place of households. And the 10 technical visits in households are ongoing. The objective is to test different renewable energy sources, not only on electricity production, but also on heating. It's very important because we have energy communities only in our regions, only focusing on PV plants, and we would like to test also wind energy, solar thermal energy. So you can see how here the organization of the pilot action. We are working with social services, but also local energy agencies. Social services which identify, the role is to identify households in an energy poverty situation. The local energy agencies, one in the rural area and the other one in the urban area, give advice, provide technical support to the household, but also to the energy community. And the local citizen energy communities, which is already existing in the territory, invest and install the renewable energy the installation, and the objective is that this energy community be reimbursed by the energy savings made thanks to the installation. We are also working with, of course, with the local public authorities and with the two energy communities in place. So Porte du Vercors, Centrale Villageoise, you can see here an installation already done by the citizen energy community here. in the rural area, and the other one here in Lyon, in the urban area. And so the legal and economic study is finished now, and so we have now 2 contractual models for our two energy communities, because it depends on the households, and the context is different between the rural and the urban. In rural areas, we focused on individual houses, and in rural area more on co-ownership or social landlords. So we have contractual models. One is where the energy community is the owner of the installation, and the other one where the energy community acts for the project owner, and finances the installation, but is not the owner. And there are 2 different contractual models for each. For each model, we also have an economic model with incentives each stakeholder can get. So it could be incentives for the energy community, incentives for the social landlords, for example, or for the households directly. Also, this economic study took into account the risk of failure to achieve the expected energy savings, the risk of non-payment from the household, and the risk of concerning maintenance, equipment repairs, who take into a charge these maintenance, etc. Now we have to experiment and to test these models in real households. So this pilot action is not really it's not achieved yet, and we have to work just some weeks again to work on this. And the objective is to really have a robust contractual and financial model to allow the energy communities to launch works with vulnerable people, to offer this service for vulnerable groups, and after that to disseminate this pilot action in local and regional action plans. And maybe, and the objective, we hope so, our objective is to replicate this pilot action with the other 48 other energy communities we have in the regions. You can see the map here. So we have also energy communities, not only on PV, as I said, but also on biomass, on wind energy. Some of them, few one, but some of them are working on wind energy and on yes, on biomass mainly. So the objective is also to develop this access to renewable energies for vulnerable groups in different areas of the regions. In conclusion, the opportunities for energy communities are to strengthen their social vocation and competence, because there also we ask them to work also on eating issues and to address everyone. It's not the case now, and the objective is really to offer a service to everyone. The opportunities for a local public authority is to achieve its goals. So they have commitments in their SECAP equivalence. So with measures about energy poverty, and this pilot action and these actions can help them to achieve their goals and to also involve its citizens in renewable energy objectives. And of course, the opportunity for households, they don't have to invest in the renewable energy installation. They can have an energy bill with a price contained. It means that the price is maintained during long term, and the comfort is improved, of course. What we can share with other regions, we have, I think, some years of experience to develop energy communities in our regions now, especially in PV plants. And so we can, we have a legal status, for example, we can share. We have also financial models we can share also with other regions. And now with the polite action, we can also share the way we include vulnerable groups in these energy communities, and how we can also empower the energy communities on heating issues, because it's a very important subject in our region, especially this problem of heating, and how to involve local public authorities also in citizen energy communities, and how to make links between public and private owners. That's it. I hope I didn't take too much time.
That's good. Thank you very much, Catherine. We have a question coming in from the chat, coming from Rose Power, and she is asking. No, in fact, that is a statement, so I'll let you read that one later on. Perhaps I could give a follow-up question instead. So, I mean, can I ask, like, how replicable do you think this would be to other regions? You mentioned that you're making that you could make the financial models available to other regions, for example. I mean, are you planning to make the documentation available through the Parity website for other regions to access?
Sure. Yes. We plan to also realize a good practice. I hope so. It will be a good practice. It's not finished yet, but I think we will be able to have a good practice on this, and to share all the contractual model. Of course, maybe I think there will be some adaptation because it's really it's addressing the local and national legal status. So maybe it's, yes, you have to adapt it, of course, according to your legal condition in your region, but we will share it for sure.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Katharina, any questions?
No, let's go to the polls.
Great. So we'll now launch our 2 polls to the audience. So I will be asking you, well, how long you think it would take you to sort of replicate this measure in your region, if you wish to, and then also what sort of impact you think that could have. So we'll give you a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds to answer those polls. And perhaps in the meantime, I could invite our second panel, that's Tanja, Florian, and Javier, to just put their cameras on for the next questions. There's Florian. Hello. And do we also have Tanja and Javier? Really so. Okay, well, I think we can close those polls. I can't see the answers quite yet. Okay, so viewed very much as a long-term measure there, 18 months plus, with a medium impact, or well, medium to high impact. I think quite promising pilot. Okay, then, well, to go to Tanja, Florian, and Javier, if they are here. I'd like to ask you how easy you think this approach would be to implement in other regions. Perhaps you can take your region as a direct example. So considering, for example, the stakeholders needed technology availability, resources, and skill. So perhaps we could go to Tanja first, if she is there. She is. Hi, Tanja.
Yes, so I think that this would be very possible to also apply in our region. And I think that your example shows that there is high possibility for other regions to adapt your model.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, did you want to reply?
No, it's okay.
Okay, and Florian?
Yeah, I think it can be very replicable in other regions, and mostly if we have active communities already existing on renewable energies, for example. But to me, it's a very clever way to make better access to energy for all. So yeah, I think we are very interested in the tool, contract, feedbacks that you'll have. We look for it. Thanks.
Perfect, thanks. And I don't know if we have Javier here. I will take that silence as a no. Okay, so we can go to the next question, which would be simply, where do you think this fits in our classification of practices? So normative, regulatory, financial, technical, or empowering, or other aspects of multiple categories there. We'll go to Tanja again first.
I think that this is mainly empowering, because you look at the more of the vulnerable groups and you have the social side included there. So that was quite interesting for me as well, because in my region, the social part involving the social organizations as such hasn't been discussed so much. So I think it's very interesting from the empowering part for the vulnerable groups. Thank you.
Thank you. And Florian?
I consider it as a financial practice first. There's also a technical part quite important in it, how to choose a roof, how to implement photovoltaics, and behind empowerment is there as well, with an aspect of solidarity between people, helping each other. So it's quite broad, and the main benefit for the inhabitant, it provides him with security on prices of energy, which is quite important for when you are in difficulty to pay your bills.
Okay, thank you very much, Florian. I'm sure Katharina has got that up on the Miro board.
Yes.
Good. Okay, so we can move on to the next presentation. Thank you very much, Catherine. We'll let you rest for a bit until the next panel. So next up, I'd like to invite Tudor, Drambarean, and Valentin Voinica to present their pilot action, which is improving energy efficiency in social apartments using smart monitoring solutions. Tudor, I don't know if we can see you, but we can see your slides.
Hello.
Hello. Yes,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you and see you.
I hope you can see our presentation. We're just sharing it now.
We can. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. My name is Tudor. With my colleague Valentin, we will present the pilot action implemented within the Social Green project financed through Interreg Europe. The project aims to improve the policies and operational programs for greening social housing, focusing on the link between social housing, energy efficiency, and greening interventions. And through the project, the municipality of Alba Iulia addressed the regional operational program. It's basically an ERDF funded program, and being a useful tool for the municipalities in order to improve energy efficiency of various buildings in the city. This program, of course, could be also improved, and that was our part in the project, to learn about how to improve this program and to share these with our stakeholders, which were involved in the process. Very interestingly, in the project, we've implemented an action plan based on the learnings that we've taught in Estonia, more specifically in Tartu and Tallinn. It's a pilot project which consisted in the installing of smart appliances, smart equipment in social housing in our city. Probably the first such project ever to be implemented in our country, and with quite interesting results. My colleague Valentin and I will both share our impressions of this pilot action, and he will address more the technical part.
So we saw very interesting presentations from our colleagues regarding the energy poverty. And even if not specifically dedicated to energy poverty, we addressed social apartments in Alba Iulia. And we have two main areas, one the technical part and the second one the social one. So we have as objectives to check if we have smart devices implemented in the building and obtain an improvement in energy efficiency and also in consumer behavior. We are meaning the tenants of the social apartments. So in these two areas, we used informative materials. We developed a smart home technical system for monitoring main parameters. We have proposed, based on the results of the pilot, improvements in the regional plan addressing this area. And initially, we addressed 8 apartments, but finally, we managed to extend the pilot to 10 apartments. About the technical part, as you can see in the picture, is a thermal picture of the building. We don't have big losses because it's a building quite new. It was finished in 2013, and this can be considered as a Class A insulation. It's using natural gas for heating, and each flat has analog meters, which is not very good if we are thinking about automation and smart devices. So we have to adapt the technical part in order to acquire most of important data regarding energy and the environment. Here you see how we develop the system. In the 8 apartments, we use 4 gateways, smart gateways. We have smart plugs, we had temperature sensors, we have automatic heating relays, and also detection of smoke and CO2. Here you see on the left part the display of the application available to all the tenants in the social building. And on the right part, you see the monitoring platform we used to gather results of the project. Here are the results. So based on better informing, changing behavior, and giving proper real-time information to all the tenants, we obtained interesting results. Minus 11% on electrical energy, 13% on hot water. These results must be considered also as bigger in normal conditions, because the COVID-19 affected the living time in the social apartments. So theoretically, we demonstrated what the literature in energy efficiency area tells us, that smart devices and proper informing can get you between 15 and 20% reduction in energy consumption. But in a social building is very interesting. Here you see the results of monitoring the environment. Sometimes people with more children are putting the interior temperature at 24, which is quite high. And also on ventilation, some improvements are needed. We have over 1,000 parts per million in CO2 sometimes. But overall, the environment in the social apartments was very good. So these are the data. And now about how we try to inform and change the behavior of our tenants.
So we did a monthly surveys with the tenants living in the apartments, and we offered them guidance and materials which they could use in order to improve their behavior. As the slides show, the tenants could use for free a mobile app through which they could improve the living condition in their apartments, which was quite innovative in many ways, and it showed that smart solutions could be very useful for such type of energy-related projects. Now, moving to the conclusions, one aspect that is very important and must be considered in such a project is the human factor. At first, we were received with reticence because the people thought the municipality might spy on them, might want to evict them, or might want to increase their energy bills. Just because installing smart sensors and cameras and everything in someone's home is not always an easy process, and this is quite obvious for anyone. But after they understood the objective of this pilot, and after we showed them how convenient it was for them to use and to employ on an everyday basis, they really started to see the advantage, and that's how we increased from 8 apartments to 10. The implementation being quite a successful project, and even presently we have a lot of requests for such installations to be made. Also, other conclusions, it's very important to install the best appliances in such projects, because you need to have reliability on them, and you need to be able to generate some concrete data, which also has to be very well protected. So this is not public data, it's just data that we use for project purposes and for project analysis. It's important to, when the installations are done, to minimize discomfort for the tenants. And also the service providers involved must also be very professional in this regard. And we had very good results, even though, as my colleague said, the pandemic did affect a little bit the impact of the project. Nevertheless, these systems are moving very fast. This technology is changing quite rapidly, and even from last year to this year, you can dramatically, in some areas, improve data monitoring processes and installing new appliances which offer some really good results in this area, which in the end are translated into lower energy bills, reduced energy poverty, and increased comfort for the tenants living in the apartments. we have at the end of the pilot, we elaborated an implementation report, which is accessible to anyone, and there are more conclusions about this pilot action that can be learned from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tudor and Valentin, also for your presentation. I mean, we hear a lot about behavior change. Everyone talks about it, but I think it's quite difficult to do. So good to see a pilot with such clear and strong results. I note, though, that, I mean, there seems to be quite an intensive process with the monthly surveys and the monthly meetings and so on. I mean, how will you scale this up? How will you be taking this beyond just the pilot buildings?
Of course, you need resources to implement such a pilot and to scale it to a whole neighborhood. Obviously, you would need more resources. What is important, I think, is that nowadays everyone uses a smartphone, so any type of survey can be done via mobile. It could be I don't know. SMS, it can be emails, so quite easily, especially in the pandemic, we were no longer allowed to visit these tenants, so we had to adapt. This can, of course, it can be scaled up at a higher level, but with the resources needed, because such solutions indeed cost some money, but it is quite important to say that it's only a fraction of a retrofitting project to have such installations in place, and they can lead, on top of the 30 to 40% reduction of energy, they can lead to an extra 20% reduction if you take into account also the behavior change component. So we consider this type of solutions to be an added value to a retrofitting project, even though there's an extra cost indeed.
Which most of the time at the moment is based on a new envelope of the building, so passive measures. Now we are addressing smart measures, which can go further.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're running a little short of time, so I'm going to dive straight into the polls. I don't think that we had anything coming in by the chat, but perhaps some questions will come in, so you can just keep an eye on what's going on there. So again, the same questions as last time. To the audience, how long do you think it would take for you to implement this in your region or in another region? And what sort of impact do you think this could have from high, medium to low? And again, I'll ask back Tanja and Florian to turn their cameras on so that we can ask them some questions. So perhaps we can close that poll now and see the results. Okay, a midterm implementation this time with high expected impact. So looks like you're onto a winner there. Okay, so we'll turn this time, I think, first to Florian. So the question again would be for you, how easy do you think this approach would be to implement in other regions?
So in this approach, we have two different things, equipment of monitoring and then help to behavior change. So for equipment, it may be long and difficult to find budget, but more efficiently support to behavior change, such as the monthly surveys, and help them to understand their consumption. Can be done quite quick and on a very bigger scale with lower resources. So that's my view.
Okay, thank you. And Tanja?
Yeah, so I think this is very interesting also, especially this behavior part and the acceptance of having, for instance, tools that monitor. So very interesting, like what we need to make the change in the society, to be able to monitor and reduce, have a wise use of energy. So I find this very interesting, and especially the behavior part and how you have addressed that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And I mean, do you think that it would be an easy practice to replicate or a bit more challenging? Have I frozen? No. Tanja, I was asking, do you think it would be an easy or a difficult practice to replicate?
I think that it could be challenging at the beginning because of the monitoring part, of course. But I think that when we are in this wide-scale energy crisis affecting everyone at the moment, I think people may be more willing to accept also monitoring devices at their home. So I can see that it's a bit context dependent as well. So I think maybe at this time, people would be more willing.
Getting easy. Okay, thank you. And then again, we'll come back to the question of classification. So Florian, to you first.
I'd classify so the first part as technical for automatic monitoring, but for self-monitoring, when you yourself you read your consumption, you check your temperature, then it would be more empowering, and learn how to deal with your energy budget, and of course a financial part to it, because by the end you do real savings of money as well.
Yeah, so a bit of everything there. Thanks. And Tanja?
Yes, so I agree with Florian. There are many aspects in this what you are doing. Of course, the technical part and the financial part. And at the end, I think also it's more empowering as well. You have access to information and you know what to do with the information at the end. So you can make choices, and it's empowering you as a citizen as well, and really affecting your ability to affect your own choices and your own environment, but also wider society at the end. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tanja. Okay, well, thank you, Tudor, Valentin, Florian, and Tanja as well. We'll switch now to the last presentation of this panel. So I'd like to introduce now Ruth Borrego from the Andalusian Energy Agency. I cannot see if Ruth is here.
Hello.
Hello, Ruth. Okay, so Ruth will be presenting energy and educational community for a vulnerable area. Ruth, please go ahead.
Thank you so much for inviting us to this event. We are not really happy to speak about energy poverty, to be honest, because it means that but if we are talking, we are trying to tackle this energy poverty. So we are happy with the pilot I am going to present you. I am sharing my screen. Let me know if you can see it well.
It's still showing in the program at the moment. It's not full screen.
Oh,
there we go.
Now, okay. Okay, my name is Ruth Borrego. I'm working from the Andalusian Energy Agency, which is the lead partner of the Poverty Project. And I am happy to present you the pilot action about energy and educational community for a vulnerable area. Where is this pilot? This pilot is in Torreblanca neighborhood, located in Andalusia, Seville. And this neighborhood has been classified by the Andalusian Regional Strategy of Cohesion and Social Inclusion as a disadvantaged zone. We are talking about almost 18,000 inhabitants in the area. What is this pilot about? We are in the process now. We are not finished yet. We are setting up a collective PV installation on the roof of 2 public schools to generate energy that will be shared with at least 10 vulnerable families of Torreblanca, supported by a legal and technical assistant and accompanied by a social integration process and a pilot energy community office. In the photo, you can see the location of the schools and the barrier in the regulation of Spain that we need to, we can generate energy between 2 points with a maximum of 500 meters. Who are the key agents of this pilot? We have Torreblanca Illumina, the energy community, the Association of Torreblanca Illumina. They have some part of the equipment, the PV panels and the workforce. The Poverty Project with the pilot action with a holistic assistant and the rest of the equipment for this installation. The County Hall of Seville with the cession of the roof of the 2 public schools and the selection of households in the energy poverty situation through the social services in Torreblanca, and also 2 public schools with the educational activities. How was born this energy community? In 2019, the local group of Son Energia was born the idea, and they win the first prize of the National Germinador Social, and also they receive a donation of PV panels. So they have now some financial amount and also some equipment. During 2 years, they create the Association of Torreblanca Illumina, and also they do a lot of educational activities in the public schools that I mentioned before. Now in 2022, as a poverty stakeholder, this local group of Son Energia in the regional workshop, they comment this idea, and we see the possibility to support this energy and educational community. So from the poverty pilot action, we are developing a holistic assistance, legal, social, and technical. We have some part of the equipment of the installation. We are going to disseminate this process with a video and also with a methodology to make easy for all of you to replicate this experience. When I say legal assistant, we analyze and we help or support the Torreblanca Illumina Association with the legal figure of the energy community. We analyze this legal figure and find which is the best one. Also facilitate the procedure of the public and private collaboration. You know, we need to have the cession of the roof by the county hall. And also we review the document of the association, and we sign an agreement between Andalusian Energy Agency and Torreblanca Illumina to support this energy and educational community in this a really vulnerable area. With the social assistant, yesterday we have the workshop number 4. So the next week we will have the 5-1. And also we have a pilot energy community office where people from Torreblanca receive energy advice. And also we are define the criteria to detect the household which are in the energy poverty situation and will be the first 10 households to receive the energy coming from the installation located in the schools. The energy is the 95% of the energy will be shared with the families in Torreblanca. And the technical assistants are writing the project and try to optimize the installation to make easy to share energy with more families. This slide I think is really interesting, the challenges and the lesson learned with this pilot that is in process at the moment. The challenges, there is no other experience in Spain with an energy community in a really vulnerable area. The energy community in a vulnerable area context is different than in another context. Make the vulnerables the protagonists of the energy system. Also, the public and private collaboration, you know, two public administration and one association, it was a really challenging thing. Administrative process of legalization of collective self-consumption is really new in the Spanish normative, and also the deadline of this pilot action was reduced to do something like this, because as I will send you, as I will tell you before after, the time of the social process is not short in these cases. About the challenges, the area with great concerns, if you are worried about eating and dressing, is not your priority, the energy. And also bring energy to local, to low educational levels. Is the energy topic is not so easy for all of us. So if you have a low educational level, is really difficult. And also the other challenge is the labor insertion, to include the people from Torreblanca to maintain the installation or to work together with the assistant. The lesson learned, we exchange good practices about other energy community in Spain to help us to get the session of the roofs with the county hall. Also, the synergies with other movement in the neighborhood were really interesting. Like, for example, there is another project like Torreblanca Verde, Torreblanca Solidaria. So it's really useful to take account these synergies. We detected the ambassadors to explain energy community, like the key people, like key agents in the area of Torreblanca. Is these people that everybody knows and everybody trusts them. So these ambassadors are really interesting in the development of this pilot. The agreement between the Andalusian Energy Agency and Torreblanca, the social process take a lot of time. The social services make the contact easier, and the funding is a barrier to continue the energy community. Also, the old electrical system in the schools and in the houses is an additional investment, not forcing. Educational complement make easy the asset of this pilot, and the complex coordination of the number of agents involved. You need a very good coordination. The result expected is improve the energy strategy of Andalusia 2013, and produce a methodology about the full process to help anyone to try to do the same. One video about the full process, a publication in the Energy Poverty Advisory Hub Atlas, one good practice in the Interreg Europe, in the policy learning platform, and the dissemination of international, national, regional, and local level. This is Torreblanca pilot in a nutshell. We expect this experience inspire you and puts light, solar of course, to replicate this pilot. And this pilot contributes to the vulnerable citizen being the protagonist of the energy transition. Thank you, and I hope I did in time.
Very good. Yes, very much in time. Thank you very much, Ruth. So yeah, I think another very interesting pilot. I find especially interesting the use of the public building for the installation of the solar. You mentioned again this, I had further questions, but we are running a little bit short of time. So I'll just ask, you mentioned this methodology will be produced. When would that be available?
We are in the process to finish the pilot. So we have to finalize at the end of March, but I think we will need time to review this methodology and to make easy to understand for everybody. So I hope, I will say at the end of April, but I hope it's before, but I prefer to say at the end of April.
Okay, I'll be coming to you for that, for this, for our policy brief, for sure. And then we have one question that's come in via the chat from Rose. So Rose is asking, what type of organization donated the PV panels? Was it a private or public enterprise?
I am checking this information because I am not sure, but it's, I think it was a foundation of Holland through a ONG, I will say, here. It's a Holland company, it's called Trina. I think they have some under production or something like this, and they were looking for a donation, and I don't know how they, at the end, they find Torreblanca Illumina Association, and they received the PV panels. I can send you the link with the news, but it's in Spanish, but you can check the photos also if you are interested.
I think it would be great if you could share that link just in the chat for everybody to have a look at.
Yeah, now.
Okay, perfect. Right, so thanks a lot. So we'll launch now the last of the polls for this session on time and impact. I won't read those ones out again, you know it by now. And again, I'll ask back Florian and Tanja for the follow-up questions. Okay, maybe we can leave the poll open this time and I can just come straight to Florian. How easy do you think the approach would be to implement in other regions?
Yeah, once again, photovoltaic, it's not always so easy to implement. But if you count 1 year, it could be really doable everywhere. And I think it's really helpful, the idea of the holistic approach, and not only to take care about energy, but to focus on the whole problem. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And Tanja?
Yes, so I think it's a very interesting example again, and maybe it takes a bit more time to implement and to find the suitable buildings and so on. So the time frame is a bit longer, but very interesting as the installments were done on public buildings. So it has a very good educational component that the local children and young people can learn and see as an example. So very interesting from educational point of view. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanja. Perhaps we can now close the poll, have a look at those results, then we'll do our categorization and we can pause. Okay, so again, midterm practice, again, high to medium impact. So also looking very good. Thanks everyone for the votes there. So Tanja, Florian, last questions for this session. Again, where would you fit this in our classification scheme?
I would choose empowering first, and of course with technical and financial burdens, but shared energy really is about empowerment to me.
Thank you. And Tanja?
I can see, of course, the financial part and the empowering part. I see also the normative part very much present in this practice, because the installations are done on the public buildings. So it's visible in the community. Energy becomes visible, and access to energy and access of all people to energy becomes visible. So very normative in that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah, thank you. Well, thank you, Catherine, Tudor, Valentin, Ruth, for your presentations. Thank you also, Florian and Tanja, for your comments and your follow-ups. We'll now take a short break. We had planned this to start at 15:40. We're a little bit late, but I think we can still take 15 minutes. So that's to come back at 4 p.m. for the next panel. For the duration of this break, it will be broken up now into parallel groups of, I think, 5 to 7 people to allow a little bit of networking and discussion. So this is not mandatory. If you want to go and grab a coffee instead, of course, please go and do so. But in these parallel groups, feel free to just introduce yourselves and see if you can get a discussion going, a little bit of networking, just like you would at a real conference. So again, at 4 p.m. sharp, we'll start the next parallel groups, the next plenary, sorry, so all of the parallel groups will be brought back together into one. So yep, thanks again, and see you all at 4 p.m.
So hello, welcome back. These networking breaks are always a little bit dangerous for the organizers of online events because people tend to disappear in cyberspace and never return. But I hope this is not the case here, and you're all back and still eager to hear about 3 more interesting approaches. Now, these approaches are good practices. That means that they are already rolled out at a larger level than the pilots, the very interesting pilots that we have just heard about. And I'll continue straight away with our next speakers. The setup is the same. Our presenters present, and then the panel from the speakers from the first panel will comment, and the polls to the audience are the same. And in the concluding sessions, we are looking at a Miro board where we will see all the, let's say, where we have classified which good practice and pilot. So that will be interesting to see in the end when it all comes together. So let's turn to Finland and let's hear a little bit about how to bring down the cost of PV systems through joint procurement and purchasing. Tanja, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Yes. So I will be talking about joint procurement and purchase of solar power, and I represent AgroRes project. In AgroRes, we are advancing renewable energy in agriculture and rural areas. Our partner countries, our main lead partner is in Spain, in Extremadura area. Then we have partners in Ireland, Poland, Romania, Finland, and Italy, and of course England. And I represent the Regional Council of North Karelia in Finland, in the province of North Karelia. So the objective of the joint procurement of solar power was to increase the renewable energy share in the region of North Karelia. And this action was organized as a part of North Karelia towards oil-free and low-carbon area project funded by European Regional Development Fund. And together with Finnish Environment Institute and the Carbon Neutral Municipalities Network, HINKU, Regional Council of North Karelia planned and organized joint purchase for solar power units. And this was addressed to individuals and private companies in North Karelia municipalities. And the municipalities were an important partner in this action. They provided event venues and promoted joint purchase for their residents. And the project was managed by the Regional Council, and the budget was around 655 €500,000. And here you can see some pictures of the installments and installation of them. There were two rounds of this action. I represent here the timetable for the first round. So it took about 1 year to have the units in action, in actual use. The process started in July, August 2016, and the solar power units were installed by April, June 2017. And an important part of this process were information sessions in which people interested in solar energy received unbiased information on them. For instance, what to consider before purchase. So they had information before they made the decision. Very important part of advancing renewable energy. They were given information on the permits, construction, security, connecting to the electricity network, profitability, installation, maintenance guarantees, use of solar energy, selling excess energy, and so on. And during the first round, the procurement tendering process was done after the interested participants were registered. During the second round in 2018, this was done already beforehand. So the participants had already the information on the prices before they decided to participate. So during the first round, the tenders were done before registration and then during the second afterwards. And call for tenders was an important part in the process in order to comply with legal requirements. And the solar panel providers were chosen based on having certification for installing solar panels and the guarantees that they could give for the work and the production ability of the panels, other structures, and the panels themselves. And also the level of domestic production was one selection criteria for the providers. And they were received for the second round, they were received 8 providers. They gave an offer and one was selected. And the buyers could be both individual citizens and enterprises. And here are some prices. This information is for the second round. It varies a bit what kind of system was installed. And these include value-added tax as well. And the project action was a success. During first round in 2017, 41 new solar panels were installed. And after second round, more panels were installed. So in total, 225 kilowatt peak were installed. And this capacity can annually produce 195 megawatt hours of electricity. And also CO2 emissions were decreased. After these 2 rounds, 32,000 kilograms annually were decreased. And this is, of course, annual every year, that much is reduced in the region because of this action. And the units were about 30% cheaper than the average market price. So because of the tender process, the buyers received cheaper units than buying them as individual citizens. And what was remarkable was that a large share of the participants were rural or were from rural or agricultural areas, 60% during the first round and 80% during the second round. And in total, 350 people interested in solar energy were reached during these 2 rounds. So remarkable amount of people. Not all of them decided to buy solar power, solar panels in this process, but maybe later they will buy or they will share the information onwards in the community. So very important information sharing possibility as well. So thank you for listening, and I will welcome any questions or anything else you have on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tanja. I really like this good practice because it shows how the public body can make a difference even without spending a lot of money on their own. Just by pooling together the individual orders and placing a large order, the price is much more advantageous than if you buy for a single family home. I wish somebody had done that for me, because my PV system that I bought for my place was very expensive. So if I think that Brussels region could have simply pooled together, asked who is interested in getting a PV panel, and then place a joint order and bring down the cost, that would have been wonderful. I hope, Rose, that answers your question, why the price is cheaper by bundling them, actually, by bundling the order. So how is this relating to our energy poverty topic? Well, it makes the system much cheaper, of course, for the household that wants to acquire it. So that's the link. Tanja, thank you very much. Let's hear from our audience. What do you think about the speediness of implementation and the level of impact, the same poll that you usually have? And while we hold this open a while longer, may I invite Catherine, Tudor, and Ruth to turn on your cameras. The question for you is, as usual, how easy do you think is this good practice to implement or to transfer?
Okay, I can begin. I agree with you, Katharina. I think it's a very good practice. We have experience of joint procurement on for installation materials, for example, or for the purchase of electricity. So I think a joint purchase for solar power units is very easy to implement. So yes, very easy to have this idea and to engage the public authorities to facilitate joint procurement, especially public procurement. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, what do you think? Easy to implement?
Tanja, congratulations for this good practice. I love it. And I think if you are talking about information session. So if we have information session for the public authorities talking about this, I think it's really easy. If the public authority has in mind this idea and clear the impact of this, I think will be easy. The barrier should be that the regional municipality is not understand the idea or is worried about what happened. But I think it's not the case of this good practice. So I really love it. I think the main point is the regional municipality to be the one to empower, to be in the middle, to give the trust to the citizen, because we have in Spain something similar, but it's a cooperative who do this joint purchase, and it's different because the regional municipality, I think, give more trust to the citizen. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Tudor, any comments? Easy to implement, interesting to transfer to Romania?
Yes, I apologize. I had to switch to my mobile. Indeed, it's a very good example, and I'm happy this was shared through the event. We've had something similar on electric buses, where our municipality was involved in a similar public tender, and electric buses were acquired with different municipalities in the country. And of course, it's a good practice example, which shows that without any money involved, the municipality can really make a difference and provide the benefit of the citizens in the end. And the beneficiaries were quite numerous, and I'm sure the impact was even larger because a lot of other people heard about this good practice and will definitely be interested in the future.
Cool, thank you. Let's see the results of the poll. Okay, midterm for implementation. Yes, Tanja, you pointed out it takes about 12 months and high impact. Wow, this is the highest impact score that we have seen so far, 70%. Okay, thank you. Good, and then let's see how we classify this good practice. Technical, empowering, normative, or financial. What are the striking features?
For me, it's financial, a good prices. Tanja told us about market price and cheaper units. So I think it's mainly financial good practice, but yeah, maybe technical also in a lesser aspect.
I will like to go to the financial, the technical, because Tanja told us about the certification to be sure that the quality of the installation, I suppose. So I think this technical aspect is important. And also, when you were talking about the information session and I mentioned the trust, I think the empowerment could be possible also, this label here. So financial, technical, and empowerment.
Tudor, what do you see? Do you see also a normative element there? Oh, Tudor is having problems with
I'm sorry. Yeah, can you repeat the question? I apologize.
I wonder if you also see a normative aspect in this good practice because of the joint tendering.
Of course, it differs from country to country, but based on our previous experience, this shouldn't be something overall complicated. And I think if legislations need to be adapted under EU regulations or directives in this area, it needs to be done at all region level or national level, and from there on, it should just go smooth as it did in the example offered by Tanja.
Great. Okay. So no normative. Thank you very much. Great. Well, I'm hearing from your reactions that you like it as I did. I think it's intuitive and nobody can get it really wrong. So let's hear our next good practice. Florian, the floor is yours. Maybe some of you have already seen Florian in our video journey earlier in the day. So welcome back, this time live. And the floor is yours for the Enerterre integration workshops.
Okay, thank you. I will share my screen. All right, can you see it? Okay, so I'll talk about a good practice selected in the framework of clean projects. We represent Normandy region in this project, and we are co-funded by Interreg and them. It's about energy efficiency and low carbon policies, mostly in building. And Enerterre Integration Workshop. Enerterre is the name of the association that created a system of participatory workshop at people in need. It doesn't work. Okay. So we gave a name to this practice and we called it in English 3SR for shared and supported self-renovation. So it's about retrofitting a house of people in need. These people would participate to the renovation work or to the team building of the people helping him to do the renovation work. These works are supervised by a professional, a craftsman, and he coordinates a group of volunteers that help the beneficiary to do its work in his house. In Normandy, we do it with mostly people in need, and we do works that imply ecological material and with respect of traditional building techniques. This is the full concept, but it can also work partly. You can also fight against precariousness doing only supported self-renovation, meaning that you take care of a part of your own works, or a shared participatory building site without a professional that can help you to lower costs. So I'll go deeper in the advantage of 3SR. The main characteristic of the system in Normandy is that it's a solidarity chain that we create between people. Beneficiaries, often before becoming beneficiaries, they help another beneficiary in their house, in his house. And then when you are helped, you need to help someone else in return. So it creates like a community of people helping each other and fighting against precariousness, which leads to social cohesion. Second impact is about the local economy. These people often couldn't afford the works that are done in their houses, but with the help of a group, they still have money to pay for the craftsmen that will coordinate the work and explain the different techniques. It has, of course, a positive environmental impact because we use local and ecological material and we improve comfort and energy efficiency. It preserves built heritage. In Normandy, most buildings are in the zone we are looking at. It's built with earthen material. And not the less, it fights against isolation and helps people to get in contact with the other and develop competencies and knowledges in buildings, but as well in social competencies, being part of a group. So it's an insertion and empowerment system as well. On the side, you have two experiences, one in Sevilla and one in Greece, where our partners try to do the same in other countries. So we have feedbacks from other regions trying to do the same kind of things. We produced some key elements so that it can be replicated easily. We have a guide explaining how to do it before starting, how to implement it during the working site. We have a charter explaining the values behind the 3SR system, some promotional videos, flyer, Facebook, and a referential of competencies because it changed a little things for the craftsmen to explain how to work. instead of doing the work. So it's a referential of competencies. We've been involved in the development of this with Enerterre from their birth in 2012. Then we had the European project about trainings, where you saw the outputs just before, and it gave birth to the concept of 3SR that we tried to re-promote thanks to the Hands for Homes network. It's a European network, and thanks to clean good practices. And then we lastly got selected in a Horizon 2020 proposal called SEAS, and we will lean on community energy groups to foster this kind of initiative and aid others. We have evidence of success for 10 years. There are more than 100 people in the solidarity chain of Enerterre. Now the region is funding and supporting this kind of work. There is a study on social impact about this system. And at regional level as well, we have a regional network that is promoting and helping craftsmen to implement or 3SR or 1SR or 2SR practices in Normandy, some national and European awards, and you have the website so that you can go deeper in the understanding of the practice. And below some pictures of working sites where people help each other. During one of the European projects, we did a brainstorming dissemination workshop to understand what could be the need for regions so that they can replicate this. So we found out that we need, of course, more partners and territories implementing this. Partners being social, supporting social collaborators, social workers, craftsmen, or groups of citizens. It's better if we cooperate with a public or social partner with a budget. But it can also be done without budget. This is under the scope practices, but participatory workshops for ecological works are quite common, but not always supported by public authorities. So you can lean on this and make it bigger and more focused on people in social needs. We have practical trainings to learn how to do it, and we can provide it in French and English. It could be a certification of competencies behind this for the craftsmen that are implementing such works, and we are looking for recognition of the 3SR at EU level, because in some part of it, mainly insurantial, there's a gap in the legislation, so we will go deeper on this thanks to CE's project. And of course, promotion tools and events such as this one, thanks again. And what you need as a resource, local and international funding, it's better, trained masons and worksite leaders, social collaborators, I already told it, and responsible person in organization for coordination of or networking that will take care of the whole process. Thank you. I hope it's been clear and I've been on time.
Thank you very much, Florian. This is also a very nice good practice, because it does not only fight energy poverty in the sense of an economic exclusion, but it is also inclusive by getting people to work together and volunteer for each other. So I think the community aspect is a very beautiful feature here. Let's quickly hear how our participants think this will be in terms of impact and speed of implementation. Let's answer quickly. Let's close this so that we see straight away where it is and we don't lose so much time. Yes, I think not surprising, mid to long term to deploy, because it is a bit more complex, and medium to high impact. Okay, thank you very much. What's our panel thinking? Catherine, Ruth, Tudor, do you think it's easy to transfer or very difficult?
I think it's very interesting. It's very focusing on low income people. So and this self renovation will make possible to reduce the cost. So I think it's very interesting. But we can see that there's a lot of people involved and a lot of sectors. It's very inclusive, as you said. So maybe it's a big work of coordination. And we have a quite same project named AELA. We published a good practice on it. I can put it on the chat if you want. I think we can easily spread this type of action to another audience. We focusing on two low-income farmers, but I think we can see, thanks to this good practice too, that we can also enlarge the audience of yes, for this. Thank you.
Good point. And maybe tackle immediately the question on the classifiers so that we don't lose too much time. Technical, financial, empowering, or normative?
For me, it's technical and financial. More technical than financial, maybe.
Thank you very much. How about you, Ruth?
Okay, I also like this good practice. It's very good. I love the idea to the chain of favors, like help each other. It's a philosophy of the energy community. But when I think to replicate this good practice, for example, here, for me, it's easier to do in rural areas than in urban areas, because for example, if I think in Seville, we have block of buildings. So I don't know how we can do this, because you need a specific training to work with height levels and other things. So when I listen this good practice, I think directly in the rural area, in houses and where people know each other and things, something like this. And for me, is to complement Catherine, is empower. It's about empowerment, because
sure.
People work together. Of course, it's technical and financial, but empowerment also, I think, and also a bit normative, because if we work together and we help each other, we are giving ideas to the decision makers to can develop some normative, or to help jump some barriers, like maybe legalization or ask for a license to do the work or something like this. So congratulations, Florian. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Tudor, you have a difficult role. Next time I will let you answer first. After these two ladies, it's difficult to say, but over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I have to agree with Ruth, as it is a good practice shared by Florian. But also, I think in certain countries, maybe it's more, or certain regions is more adequate for the rural area, because indeed, in the cities, it's especially large cities, is more difficult to implement. But in smaller communities, for example, our city or in rural areas, it's much easier to gather people and to empower them to be involved in such projects, where also you would have organizations involved. And also, you need these specific organizations to involve such projects. In Romania at the moment, I think it's a bit harder to implement such projects. This part, at least, is not covered. There's room to improve in this area, but I'm happy to see other good practices in Europe which can be shared and learned from. And who knows, maybe in a few years we can also transfer this to our own region. But I would also put this in the empowering classification.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So very interesting, that the next calls for Interreg Europe are coming up. So some of these practices certainly make good approaches to work on jointly. So we're coming to our last good practice, and well, the last is certainly not the least, because it's a super interesting financing model. It is actually a monthly rental model. So I don't want to anticipate more, but give the floor to Javier Becerra from QUANTICA Renovables. Javier, the floor is yours.
Hi, hello. How are you?
Good. Javier, I have changed your presentation, making the font size bigger. In case you haven't done it, we will run it centrally. Have you changed yours?
No, I don't think so.
Good. Then Lotte will share it, and you please just say next, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so we are going to present the Alquiler Cuántico. Okay, so it's a new solution for a residential project in self-consumption. Okay, so next one. Okay, QUANTICA Renovables. You can go to next one. We are a Spanish company. Okay, we develop and construct infrastructure projects in the energy sector. Okay, we are focused on solar PV. Okay, photovoltaics, and also we are focused on self-consumption. Okay, for solar PV as the leading technology in lower prices of energy and also renewable, of course, and in distributed energy as our bet to help change the energy matrix in the countries with the centralized energy. Okay, so we are based in Sevilla. Okay, we have the headquarters in Sevilla. We have developed more than almost 3,000 projects, mainly in South Spain and also in the East region. Okay. Well, we have a lot of previous experience in the big scale sector. Okay, in the large scale plants, all of them giving the energy to the main pool, to the main grid in different countries. Okay, and then we came back to our country and developed this focus on self-consumption. Okay. Please, the next one. Well, residential PV. Okay, we also construct projects in B2B sector. Okay, but residential in Spain is a market that is increasing. Okay, we have some years of legislation that was very negative for this kind of projects. Okay, and we have kind of a large period where the energy never developed. Okay, and well, right now is a good moment in a sense because we need it. Okay, the prices are so high, and at the same time the administration has kind of released some new normative that allows to install the solar panel and legalize it and well, develop these kind of projects more easily. Okay, so we have a huge potential because the good radiation, mainly in the south countries of Europe, well, it's a raw material that we have. We don't have natural gas, we don't have oil, but we have sun, so let's get it. Okay, so next one, please. Well, this is kind of, we think that the debate between fossil fuels and renewable energy is over, okay? We are very happy with that. But also there's a new debate between centralized energy not against, but in front of distributed energy, okay? We believe that in the medium and long term, we're going to have a lot of volume in the self-consumption side. Okay, so we think this is going to be a crucial sector for changing our matrix. Okay, our energy matrix. Okay, so next one, please. Well, our value proposition for Alquiler Cuántico is changing the way. Well, it's trying to avoid the main barrier for this kind of projects, that is investment, okay? Energy infrastructure projects in general, but in particular energy projects, they are intensive in capital needs. So for 100 megawatts projects, and also for a 3 kilowatts project, for a residential project. So we try to avoid this barrier through giving our clients a solar as a service model. Okay, we Quantum will assume all the scope in the technical sense, in the developing the project, and also we assume all the investment. Okay, the client, usually residential project for solar self-consumption is around 6,000 euros, something like that. Okay, this is going to be a big barrier for any kind of citizen. So we eliminate this barrier and we take it to the solar as a service model, where we just the owner, the client, just pay a monthly fee to us, and we assume all the rest, all the scope, all the difficulties that this kind of project has, and operate the plant. Okay, we establish a 20 years contract with the client, and in the end, and it's not just one way model, because the client can purchase the plant anytime once the plant is operating. Okay, so it's kind of, you want solar panels in your house, you want to avoid these crazy prices in the energy sector. Okay, you can make it tomorrow, and we assume the investment, and you can enjoy the green energy, the cheap energy, and then later, next year, I don't know, wherever, you can purchase the plant at a lower price that you have once buy that. Okay, but well, I think it can catalyze the installation of this kind of projects. Okay, but we have a problem with vulnerable groups. Okay, and this is the financial condition. Okay, we are a private company, as everybody, as a bank, as an investment fund. Well, the quality of the off-taker is very important. Okay, so if we have 20, 30 projects running, 10, 15, 20 of them stop paying the rent, we're going bankrupt. Okay, and this is very important for us, and this pre-analysis in the financial condition is going to leave a lot of people out of this model, out of this change. Okay, they already are in the usual model, because they can pay 6,000 euros for an installation upfront. Okay, that they are already out of that, but they are also out of this model, this new model. If we don't have some kind of security to them, and that is why are we talking with administration and we cooperate with them in order to bring a kind of a back or kind of a grant or a guarantee to I will say to increase the rating of this kind of groups and allow us to sell it, and we will be very happy to establish this model, and at the same time kind of guarantee the sustainability of the model. Okay, we have a
1 minute. 1 minute.
Yeah.
Move. I want to say you have 1 more minute. Please speed up.
Okay. Next one. Okay. So well, we are finishing. Next one, please. Hello. Okay, this is an example. Okay, 20 years. This is a solar PV house in Sevilla, 46 euros a month. Okay, and 20 years of contract. The client can purchase the project whenever they want. Okay, and they are going to save a lot of 43% of their energy they are going to save, and they're going to bring it from the panels. Okay, so you can go to the next one. Okay, this is the saving. This is 28,000 euros at the end of the contract. And last one. In here we have bring together the investment. Okay, we have investment fund, but also bring together the crowdfunding. Okay, the small investor that are going to back this kind of vulnerable client, vulnerable people through the investment in our platform. Okay, we have done it for the medium level credit clients, but we wanted to make it to the low income clients and put in contact a small investors that are willing to invest in this kind of project and this kind of sector and the end user. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. I think this model is very, very interesting. I have validated the good practice in the database, and I was immediately thinking of my travels to Africa, where solar as a service is much more common. And I was very, very happy to see it in Europe arriving for the first time. So, of course, it's a bit complex, but it's very powerful. And I think there is a role for public bodies maybe to come up with a guarantee so that you can deploy this model also to vulnerable households so that their monthly payments are guaranteed so that you do not go out of business. So a quick appreciation from the audience. How long do you think this takes to implement? If you wanted to invite Quantico to come and roll it out in your territory, and how high is the impact? Okay, let's see the replies. $12 to 18 months deployment and high impact, rather high than medium. Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, I promised Tudor to give you the floor first. So how do you think, would this be something easy to transfer? And which qualifiers do you give to this good practice?
Indeed, a very interesting presentation from Javier. Thank you. We are discussing about the private company that is very important because generally when we talk about such projects, at least in my country, we discuss by the beneficiary and which is the citizen and the state, because the government finances such citizens, but it doesn't cover even 1% of the need. So I think it's very good that there are such companies who cover this need on the market, let's say. And I think the state could do a great deal of support here, just like you said, when it comes to protecting the vulnerable, and in partnership with companies that could really, especially in these times of energy crisis, could really support vulnerable groups. I think this would be a very important topic here about energy poverty and how such models, which is similar to an ESCO contract, can really contribute. Why? Because I don't want to, of course, to say too much, and also to Javier, but the model was for 2.7 kilowatt, I think, model. But if you increase this model, you can become a prosumer, and already a vulnerable person maybe could pay from the savings directly for this for the installments. So I think this is quite unique, and it needs to be studied more and shared as a good practice. And it can be transferred, I think, to all the European regions, of course, more to those who have more sun, but nevertheless in all EU countries. I think technical and financial classification I would give to this good practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Tudor. Ruth?
I agree with Tudor, and congratulations, Javier, because he's the stakeholder of poverty. I will add I like the participate financial platform because sometimes for vulnerable groups to go to the bank and to ask for a loan or something like this regarding to renewable energy is not easy. So this crowd lending platform make easy that a lot of people participate to create this loan for vulnerable group or no vulnerable group, but in this case it's better for vulnerable groups. And of course, this is a good practice to replicate because it's a good practice from Seville. So I cannot say no. It's really a good practice of poverty project here in Andalusia. So the only point that you mentioned, Katharina, is this guarantee, this renewable energy guarantee or fund. You know, sometimes it's like when we talk about this, like we have an energy efficiency fund, maybe we can have an renewable energy fund to cover this kind of guarantee to make easy this kind of product for vulnerable groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Catherine?
Yes, very shortly. I said that this good practice was very useful for us as this financial model was used for at the basis as the inspiration for our pilot action. So thank you to QUANTICA financial model. They're very useful.
Classifier?
Financial, for sure, and financing, yes, and yeah, maybe technical also, but financing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, great. So you see, all the good practices are valuable. We have seen 6. Thank you for all the presenters. It's time to go to the final session. And I invite Simon to share his Miro board, where we have been working on classifying and moving around the good practices. So here you see. The first thing that springs to mind is that there doesn't seem to be any really quick to implement a good practice. Even the one which I was finding easiest and speediest to implement, the joint procurement, is needing 12 months. So there is no quick fix. Voila, now that's the bad message. the positive message is that of all the 6 practices and approaches that we have heard, none seems to have appeared to you as low impact. All are medium to high impact. And actually we wanted to see which are the winners in the top right quadrant of our board, but you see there are 6 winners. So it means we have well chosen the good practices. And to Ruth from Poverty, a big thanks for helping us select the good practices. Okay, let's look a little bit at the ease of implementation. Now there is a little bit more differentiated picture. You see, easiest is the joint procurement, as expected, at least by me. And yeah, the community related practices are the ones that are most difficult, probably because working with communities and working with people takes more time than yeah, putting together a joint tender. Or at, yeah, oh, I'm surprised. Oh yeah, the smart metering also rather easy. Yeah, you see that the technical ones there are speedier to implement. So this is interesting information, and Simon is going to write a policy brief where these classifiers will appear. So let's look a little bit at how the practice is fared in terms of technical, financial, normative, and empowerment. I can just say that we had a few good practices that had normative aspects. I believe this is maybe because we're looking at regional and local level, and very often the normative is done at a national level. So financial, all the good practices have a financial aspect, and all but the QUANTICA one and empowerment aspects. All of them are technical, ultimately, because they involve some sort of technology. Okay, very interesting. Thank you very much, Simon, for showing this. So this is the end of today's workshop, and a final question to the audience. Please use the chat again. We would like to hear what are your key takeaways. Is there anything that you think you might be implementing in your region? Just type in the chat box, and we are going to collect this input as well and use it for our follow-up article. So type away, tell us what you're taking home, and if you are interested in implementing any of these. And leave us a comment if you want to be put in touch with any of the owners of these good practices, and we will then put you in touch by email. Okay, so this is the end of today's workshop, and also the end of the public sessions of this Policy Learning Week. A very warm thank you to all our speakers for your contributions in your own presentation, and also in playing along with commenting on the other presenters' practices. That was very nice. We have a message from Teresa Aristegui from the European Commission, who said, great event. And would you be agreeing to share the presentations with DG Enerterre? She wants to circulate it with the relevant units at the European Commission. So I guess we can do that. Of course, she gets an email with the follow-up recordings and presentations as everybody else. My last thing maybe is to promote what is happening tomorrow on Friday. There are closed events. We're having a few matchmaking sessions. You might know that the Interreg Europe Policy Learning Platform is offering 2 types of on-demand services. And maybe listen to this also in the context of energy poverty, because you might be interested in having one of these. Like you can address us your policy challenges, and we will find 2 to 5 experts from anywhere in Europe who can help you address these. And we organize then 2 formats. similar in spirit, but different in length, either a 2-hour matchmaking or a 2 full-day peer review to have the experts tackle your challenge. So tomorrow we're having some of these matchmakings, for instance, for the province of Tarragona and for the Northeast Regional Development Agency in Romania. Monday we're having a matchmaking for the Azores on very interesting topic of bundling of PV systems to bring down costs and open the way for third-party investments. So fully in line with the spirit of today's discussions. The policy learning platform is going to be back with 2 public webinars after Easter that take up some of the discussion today and take it further. We will look into ways to finance renewable energy installations. We have the first webinar on 28th of April looking into financing of renewable energy projects for the public sector and have somebody else pay for it and not the public budget. And on 5th of May, we examine citizen financing for renewables with community financing. So stay tuned, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon. The registration for these events is opening next week. Maybe we can send you a link already in the follow-up article to this event. I will see that with our technical partners. Have a good afternoon, stay tuned and stay healthy, and goodbye from our side. Thanks also to my team, and thanks to all the speakers. Bye-bye.